Media.
Hey, long time no see. Welcome back to another Svelte radio episode. I'm Kevin, one of the hosts. I run a site called Svelte School, and I'm heavily involved in the Svelte Society community.
I wonder if we have to keep introducing ourselves each time.
Yeah, I don't
know. I'm Shawn. I'm head of developer experience at temporal.io, and I just really enjoy Svelte.
I think you need to keep introducing yourself, Shawn, because you've always got a new job. I think that's,
no,
so
I'm trying to
know what
stay.
you're up to.
I got to accumulate some equity. I can't do this. Keep doing this to myself.
I'm Antony. I'm CTO of Beyonc, and I'm also a Svelte maintainer. Although in the last month, I don't really want to claim that because I really have literally not even looked at it. It's been a rather busy month for Beyonc due to the lockdown lifting, and the summer, the English summer, is actually here. Although it's raining today, but it's actually here, which is great.
Yeah. So we could probably talk a bit about what's new lately. What have you guys been up to?
Well, I mean, it's kind of weird seeing everybody reopen because we're actually going through a second outbreak here in Singapore. The India strain is spreading here, and I don't know. I worry that like it's going to happen to other countries, and you're going to get caught in the momentum of like everyone's reopening and people going back to the cinema and all that. And I just say, like, hang on, like there are some countries that are still facing second outbreaks, and there are variants. So I don't know, not to be a wet blanket, but just be careful.
So I think COVID has brought one. It's been one of those weird blessing and curse things. Obviously, it's caused a lot of problems for a sort of travel business. It's been very difficult. Last 3 years have been quite tough, really. But the kind of the silver cloud, the silver lining in those clouds is we had more time to get the product right with very low traffic for a very long time. Sure, we ran out of money a couple of times, but it's more, we got the product to match people's expectations. And I think the second one is one of the things that's really helped us survive and get things right is we helped providers who, wanted to run things but couldn't because of restrictions figure out how to do their business in a COVID safe way. So we've all been kind of helping and coaching each other to make this happen. So actually, it's kind of given us a different business model we never expected or never could have predicted even. And now as it's coming, out of lockdown, there's still quite a few restrictions in place, and it's meant that we've been able to kind of bring those people's businesses into something real, whilst they would have otherwise been flatlining effectively, or even going bust. So yeah.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah. It's we just opened up. So here in Sweden, they never really locked down. So you've been able to go to restaurants, but they've been closed at I think 8 p.m. I think, but just now they opened up so they can stay open to 10:30. That's pretty nice. So I went out to get some drinks in the summer sun yesterday. Very, very, very nice. And it's also nice because it coincides with the Swedish summer, which is like the 2 months where you can actually do something nice in Sweden outside.
I think Sweden's interesting, right? So what's the final verdict? Because they were the one country that bucked the trend. No lockdown, no mask mandate. Just treat everybody like adults, and it worked.
Yeah. I think it. Well, I mean, people say it didn't work in like.
But now you have
people's
numbers.
Opinions. Yeah, I know. But people are saying like, oh, but if we lock down, they would be lower. It's like you can't really. You can never win in a sense. If that makes like.
Well, you can
always go
against compare against peer countries and say like, was there that much of a difference? If there wasn't, then probably it had no effect. So it's similarly something that's going on is Texas lifted their lockdown restriction quite early, and a lot of people were very upset about that. You said you're literally killing people, but as long as people are vaccinated or they treat themselves well, or they
should be fine.
Adopt. Yeah, you don't have to use the rule of law to enforce some of these things, and it's interesting. I'm not a epidemiologist or anything, but sometimes I think when people have a very strong conviction that something's going to happen because of a policy, it turns out to be completely unfounded. And I think people need to be a little bit more circumspect about what they believe is going to happen about the future.
Yeah. I think so. So isn't like much of the polarization is from the US like political scene, right? You had Trump saying something, and then everyone had to be against what he said. Pretty much.
I'm sure there's controversy in Sweden as well.
Oh, definitely. Like so much discussion about, should we lock down? Should we open up more? Should we? Never ending as well. I just checked out after a while. Couldn't bother reading about it.
Yeah, it's probably very similar here, really. Just, the government saying one thing and then releasing restrictions too early, and then everyone blames them for doing it too early, and then they lock down again. Everyone blames them for locking it down again. It's just, you can't win, so...
Yeah.
All right. Enough COVID news.
Yeah, Svelte. Is that what the podcast is actually about?
Apparently so.
So let's start with Scott Tolinsky's doing with his website, or what he may be doing with his website.
Well, he's pitched this on Discord, really. He sort of started on Discord because he appeared he appears now and then, but he appeared recently. And he's just asking for help on SvelteKit and rebuilding components and what people are doing with GraphQL and stuff. And then it turns out he's basically MVPing rewriting the entirety of Level Up Toots. I can't even pronounce it in SvelteKit. I mean, obviously, like he said, it's too big a site and he's not planning to do it. But the more he goes on, the more you realize he might actually just end up doing it because once you start, you just can't stop. And he's shown some videos on Twitter, and the amount of code difference is almost unreasonable. It's like a 20-line file's turned into 4 lines or 3 lines or something. So, I don't know, it sounds pretty interesting. And the GraphQL stuff he's doing, I know nothing about GraphQL, but it looks really sort of straightforward. A really easy way to sort of fetch data and things. So, pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, I'm betting on him actually going ahead and converting it at some point.
I think I would probably make that bet. The thing is, he says, it would be the second rewrite since 2015 or something. But then, the fact it's already happened once before is a good sign.
It's a good precedent.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
Nothing else to say about that. So he did a live stream of 1 hour of him converting stuff, and apart from that, he did 3 hours of conversion, and he got to a pretty high fidelity. So, if you want, you could check out the live stream. We'll leave it in the show notes.
Yeah, I haven't watched that. I should take a look at that.
I browsed it. There was a lot of CPU issues because he was using like a new Mac plus OBS, and OBS just really kills your system.
Yeah.
I've had that as well, so I've just decided to not live stream because just the slowdown actually is very distracting when you're coding. I think there's a better way to live stream where you essentially have one machine that just is your coding system, and then you have a different machine that just records and sends only responsible for live stream. But I haven't set it up yet. It's just not worth it. It's not a good watch. Like, I'd much rather record and then edit out boring sections and then upload the video on YouTube.
Yeah, definitely pros and cons there with like interaction, right? If you get some people watching, you can go back and forth a bit.
Yeah.
All right. So what's new in Svelte this month or these last 2 months?
Yeah, I'll cover this May update. So for those who don't know, we do have a blog on svelte.dev/blog that Daniel Sandoval actually updates, which is pretty cool. He used to do this as his own initiative, and I think now we just more or less made it official that this is the Svelte newsletter. And I think you can also subscribe on Substack if you want to get it in your email instead of find out on Svelte Radio. New feature in Svelte 3.38 is CSS custom properties. I think the official name for this feature is style props. And I think it was a little bit controversial just because it introduces a wrapper element that injects CSS custom properties, and it makes it a lot more ergonomic to do that. But people don't like the fact that it includes a wrapper element. Discuss.
Yeah. even if it's a wrapper element, it's just like it has that display contents, right? So it actually doesn't affect the layout and stuff. It's just used for actually applying the style properties. But I mean, you get dividers, right, or whatever it's called. Is that the name for it? When you have too many divs.
Dividers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Which is why. So there was actually a pretty creative discussion. I don't know, Antony, if you know the context behind this. So you don't have to use div. If you use an unrecognized HTML element, the browser is still going to put it in the hierarchy. It just won't display anything. So you could
say HTML5, right?
Sorry?
That's a feature of HTML5, is it not?
I don't know what version. Maybe it's always been there.
I think so.
But the browser has always been very tolerant of, like, if you typoed something, it's just still going to show something. It may not be what you want, but
right.
It's not going to like error. So there was a discussion about not using div. You could use, made up name like Rich or something, and so then you don't have a chance of some existing CSS accidentally targeting that div.
I think that wouldn't the aversion to that be though that you're kind of almost inventing a new language on top of HTML at that point?
Well, that's what we're doing.
I mean, it kind of is. It's done in necessity, but I think if we start writing in a whole new language, then we're moving further away from the goal.
Yeah,
of it being like a slight superset. I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. I don't know.
I think that's kind of an interesting thing, though. You could call it like custom CSS props or something.
Yeah, you could call it anything, and it'd just be obvious in your HTML tree that, okay, this is a Svelte thingy. Don't touch it. Anyway, so that was one discussion. I think the other. So for what you use it for is for theming. You can easily pass in anything that passes for a CSS variable value into a style prop, and it comes out looking pretty good. I actually made the PR for the docs where you can actually see this. So I guess we'll leave it in the show notes because it's hard to describe code.
Yeah, did you guys try this?
It makes it a lot easier to transfer values from JavaScript into CSS, whereas in previously in Svelte there was no way to do that. I wish there was a way to go a little bit further and to do pure air quotes CSS and JS in Svelte. But right now you have to use a separate library or write your own.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I think they've discussed this for so long and so many times. They're like the maintainers in general, I think, are pretty against doing a full-blown CSS and JS thing. I'm sure there will be endless more discussions about this in the future as well. But this is definitely a nice stopgap. I made this nice little REPL where I tried the new feature a bit, and it's actually very nice. For example, like you can have buttons and style them very easily just using CSS props. We can include that in the show notes as well. Have you guys tried the feature?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance.
Yeah. I mean, it's simple. It does what it says it does, and it really is used for theming. So
yeah,
that's what you should use it for.
I mean, I've got examples where I've had to write my own styling classes that you pass into a component that's in the library. So I will at some point get a chance to rewrite that. So I'll use this instead. But again, time pressures means I haven't touched it yet.
The one thing that this doesn't really do, and maybe that's what you were touching on there with the CSS and JS thing, Shawn, is that you can't really access them inside of the component that you apply them to, right? So you say you put a -- red or -- color red on your child component. It's not like you can change that inside of the child component. It's just set there. So I don't know if there's something in between there.
No, I have no problem with that at all. If you're already inside that component, then you have full access to the CSS. This is about passing from the parent to the child. So I think it's okay. Yep. Should we also mention the style directives RFC?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a nice
so this
one.
is slightly related, and it will be a little bit more powerful. So the style props RSC, which has been merged and did ship as of Svelte 3.38, works on components. So these are Svelte constructs on top of existing HTML elements. Whereas the style directives RFC would work on elements, not components. So they would be, style : and then some CSS, some inline CSS. So basically, this would do for Svelte what the class directive does for Svelte currently. So right now, when you do class : some class name, you can actually break up a bunch of classes and actually toggle them true or false or toggle their values based on some values in JavaScript, and you don't have that equivalent power in inline styling. So with this RFC, with this RFC you would. It hasn't been implemented yet, but I think it's been more or less accepted by Rich. So that's what's going on there.
So there's actually a PR up for it where I think it's almost done. Let's see if I can find it.
I linked the RFC in the show notes, so it's got to be there.
Yeah. Okay. So I found the RFC, the PR there, and it looks like there's just something to do with parser warnings and errors. Otherwise, it seems to be done, basically, just waiting to go in. And this has been, since the 24th of January, actually.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Work continues.
Yeah. I guess we just need to wait for it to be merged then. Yeah.
Shall we move to the June update?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good. It is actually new. A bunch of new SvelteKit things. The layout and error pages have been renamed from using like a $sign to double underscores. And let's see here. Oh, the new package thing, right? So there's a new Svelte package feature where you can use to basically make packages that you can put up on NPM.
I have a feeling the dollar, again, I haven't really been watching the chat that closely, but I think the dollar thing is because dollar generally designates stores or internal things, whereas it doesn't really make sense for a file name.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, Scott covered this in his live stream.
Right.
So I don't know what the API error is, but yeah, it makes sense that you don't want to conflict with the store name stuff.
No. There's also, just interestingly, there's another discussion going on right now about the way RxJS puts a dollar at the end of the variable name. And there's definitely some support for that among the maintainers to move the dollar to the other side. It also makes it a lot clearer when you're defining a store or accessing it as a store rather than the stored value. It's a lot clearer if the dollar's at the other side. But whether or not we'll change that or not, I don't know. But it's a huge breaking change, so it's not going to just appear.
Yeah, that would be Svelte 4.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I have no opinion about that. I think I'm just used to the dollar in front.
Yeah, it just does get a bit confusing sometimes because, I mean, also the dollar at the start is a lot like the reactive label, like the Destiny operator, as it were. So it did kind of make sense to me on the end. I hate to make a big change like that, but it does make sense. For example, it's more in line with other frameworks, RxJS being a...
Kind of makes sense, I guess. Right, what else? A bunch of bug fixes for SvelteKit as well. The adapters are being broken and fixed 24/7, pretty much, is my understanding.
Yeah.
But did you do some stuff with the Netlify adapter, Shawn? I think I saw something.
Yeah, look, like a lot of these are just maintenance fixes. Because I am a former Netlify employee, I know Netlify pretty well. So I just helped to shore up the docs, and we made some changes as to where you should put your redirects files. All these are very small, but I think the more we use SvelteKit, the more we help to make it production ready. And it is not yet. So we just need everyone to use it and then find issues and then also fix them. So that's what's going on there.
Yeah, I've been rebuilding Svelte School in SvelteKit. let's see if I ever finish, like my 10 other rebuilds that never materialize. Well,
I know. I'm trying to move my own site from Elder.js to SvelteKit as well. It's extra work, and I don't know. I just have to dog food it. That's all. But it's hard to justify compared to, let's say, writing another essay or something.
I'll say one that I quite like, because I ran into it myself, is that when you were rendering a non-text body before, you couldn't cache it. The automatic caching would actually break, so you'd have to explicitly set a no cache header. So that's bug number 1382. Basically, stricter body types and e-tags for binary responses, which means you can now send back any kind of response, any kind of data. You can render an image directly to the endpoint, and it will cache it correctly and set the correct caching headers. Importantly, it will render it. Before that, it didn't actually render it; it just crashed 500 or something. So not a very exciting bug, but certainly a good thing to have.
Yeah, for sure. So
it's just funny because like we're now basically taking on a bit of the job of Express as well, or
I mean entirely. I think
entirely. Yeah.
Well, because it's a Lambda, isn't it? It's a raw Lambda, so we kind of eschew Express entirely and just serve things straight up. If that's what you mean.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like you work on Svelte as a front end framework, and now you're worrying about things like e-tags for binary responses.
Right. Yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah. Well, exactly. I suppose we've gone into a full app building thing. I suppose that makes sense. It was weird because in Sapper, obviously, we try and hide it from you. So yeah, you could render things from endpoints or server routes as they're called, but essentially you have nothing to do with it unless you start hacking around with Polka or Express or whatever. Now it's kind of, you end up involved in it anyway.
Is anyone paying close attention to what Remix is doing with their form submission APIs?
I'm not.
I'll link a video in the show notes, but they're doing some interesting stuff that makes it easier to do progressive upgrades of form submissions, progressive enhancement of form submission, and it's just a lot less state. And I mean, I like it. We could easily steal it for Svelte if we wanted. So I'll put it in the show notes for people to check out.
I think you'd get a lot of buy-in for that.
I think at Svelte Summit, I think Rich talked a bit about forms, right?
Yeah, he did. And he covered this exact sort of thing about how to build a form so that it works as a form, and then you can enhance it with JavaScript on the client side. And he was saying that's the definitive.
Sorry. I guess that was more about like what's it called? Something degradation. Beautiful degradation. No.
Yeah.
What's it called?
I don't know. I know what you mean, but I don't know what it's called.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure people figure
graceful
out.
degradation.
Graceful degradation. That's the one. Yeah. So it basically works without the JavaScript. Yeah. Speaking of Elder.js, by the way, there's a new Elder.js channel on the. Well, we were before we talked about this stuff. There's a new channel on the Discord for Elder.js where you can get help and you can discuss it and all that stuff.
Yeah, Nick is back, shipping more and more stuff. I think he has some health issues that he's gotten over, thankfully. I think we'll have him on for a future episode, right?
Yeah, he's booked in for in a couple of weeks.
Cool.
I think.
Yeah. I think he's got an interesting story and the reason he's working on SvelteKit so much. So definitely. I look forward to that interview.
Yeah. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, and Elder.js is now getting HMR, right, which is quite a big thing.
Right. Yeah, I did read something about that. That's going to be nice.
Yeah, I don't know if he's doing it. I think maybe someone's in the community is contributing it, but it's definitely in progress from what I understand.
Yeah, HMR is nice, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. It's weird because it's a static site generator, so it's a bit difficult to do it as a static site generator, but I was reading this morning about something about random routes. It generates pages kind of on random routes so you can see the changes on the fly, even though they're statically generated otherwise. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool.
Yep.
I should probably cover, just because we've done the June thing, request.locals. So we realized at some point that we were calling literally everything context because it's a kind of word that befits exactly what it is. But it's really confusing if everything is called context, because get context has no bearing on the endpoint context, which is what we previously had. So we bike shedded for literally hours to try and figure out a better name for what the context that is passed to the endpoint, which is definitely not a context, is called. And so we came up with request.locals. The reason being it's a set of variables and things and objects, whatever, that are local to the specific request, i.e. every request get a new set of them. So request.locals is a new endpoint context. And you can see the PR for that as well. And the other thing actually that came out of the more recent maintainers meeting, which I'm not a member of, I didn't join that one, sorry, was that we've added Red Hatter as a maintainer. Red Hatter, I can't remember their last name, but the first name is Arbor.
He made the Chrome extension, the DevTools one, I think.
It's possible they made that. Yeah,
Yes.
I can't remember exactly, but I know the name. I've seen it appear quite a lot.
Yep. So what's he been working on? Is he been doing?
Well, I don't know, because I haven't been paying attention.
Oh,
to
right.
what to say.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Have you guys used the Svelte DevTools? I've never actually tried it out. Never needed it.
I did, but I didn't find much benefit because Svelte is so simple. I didn't find a huge benefit in the DevTools for what I was doing, but they do work, and I have seen all the stores. You can get like a hierarchy of all the stores that turn up down the pipe and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I use it. It's pretty nice. What else? Svelte Nobby?
There's a before we move on from DevTools, I should also mention that React DevTools got a nice new feature, which is essentially an error boundary toggle. You can essentially force a component to render an error and see what happens to your UI. So it could be an interesting one to steal.
Yeah, the error boundary RFC is still there.
Yes.
We've not worked on it yet, but that would be a cool thing to have. And then definitely having a toggle for that would be even better.
Yeah, just seeing errors, like how your component reacts when there's an error.
Yeah.
It's definitely nice.
I suggested a chaos party mode where you just turn it on and it just randomly throws errors around your app.
Oh dear, I don't want to know what happened to my app.
It's only in development, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, sure. It's just I might get reality check.
Everything breaks.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
Svelte Nobby. So this is some kind of thing Rich made for like changing props in your components at runtime. So as a dev tool, pretty much, right? Like Storybook has knobs.
I'm not sure where the Nobby name comes from, and I think it means something different for British people. But I think for me, it comes from Storybook, where the knobs extension lets you actually toggle the values of some props that go in, so you can visualize what happens as you change the values. So it just automatically interprets all the props, and you just drop it in, wrapping around an existing component, and it just pops up this control panel where you can actually play with it. So I think it's like that idea of visual feedback that you can play with your components and see them live, instead of having this cognitive mismatch or distance of change things in IDE and then see them live and then go back to the IDE and translate, keep the mental mapping in your mind.
Yeah, it's definitely nice for like UI libraries and stuff like that, where you want to showcase like different variations of something, of a component.
Unreasonably annoyed that I can't drag it to another part of the screen though.
Oh,
you could make that. Yeah, it would probably take a few more lines of code. So it actually gave me this idea of like, instead of messing around with just the values, why can't we just mess with the source code of the component, any component that we click on? Like, instead of just going back to your editor and then finding the right component to edit and then editing that, why don't you just click on the component and it pops up an editor in your browser?
Yeah.
You change the thing. We have the ability to save files from the browser back to your file system. So why don't we just do that? So I haven't done it yet, but I'm very tempted. I was thinking about it today. Should I like spend 2 hours and knock it out? Because I've done something similar before, which would basically mean inverting the IDE, right? So right now, the IDE, if you can imagine, like a lot of times when we develop, we have the IDE and then we translate to the browser. But what if the browser was your main canvas and your IDE just popped up in context next to the component you're editing? So
that would be cool. You should definitely try to make a kind of proof of concept of that.
What would be nice is combining this with the Svelte inspector like extension, because you could have a list of all your components. You could search for them, filter them, and then modify their values. That'd be quite cool.
You mean the Svelte DevTools?
Yeah, so the DevTools, yeah.
Yeah. I would have to check if you have access, file system access, from the DevTools. I don't think you do, right? Because that would be a pretty strange permission to give to your DevTools.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Anyway,
that'd be cool.
More ideas. And also, I think you briefly mentioned SvelteKit package, which is a new SvelteKit command that Rich also built just to push out Nobby. And yeah, it's a way to bundle components. I think previously, whenever people wanted to make shareable components, we just set that to like the component template GitHub repo.
Yeah, and that one that doesn't have support for the problem is there, like if you want to write your components in TypeScript, you'd have to like make
run
sure it builds out to or you'd have to have the preprocessor in the project where you imported the package into. But I think this solves everything of that, all of that.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet, so I think I'm gonna try it this weekend, see if it's any fun. I'm sure it is. Svelte Motion. This is a cool library.
Yeah, I don't know any context behind this. Did you guys know about this?
No, I think I just saw it on the Discord or Twitter. Not entirely sure.
Yeah, so cool. Michael Lute comes out of nowhere and just drops this fully featured animation library for Svelte, basically porting over React Motion from the React ecosystem. And the docs are great and everyone's excited about it. I think it's just like he didn't even bother to rename the API. So it still has like a lot of the React API, like use something.
Yeah. I have I don't like when people use the use thing for stuff other than the actions. It's but that's just my pet peeve, I guess.
I know. Yeah. Well, anyway, it's got really nice support for animation, layout, gestures, motion value, and even has like a roadmap for more things that he wanted to add. So just a really cool come out from nowhere open source type thing. Every now and then you get one of these drops that are just like, whoa, where did you come from? Yeah. This one's a pretty major effort.
I wonder looking at the doc site, I wonder if the menu is using Svelte Motion, because you can see like
oh yeah.
I didn't notice at first, but it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it's got a little nice pop. That's the thing about motion. Like if it's tasteful, it doesn't beat you over the head that it exists.
Yeah.
But then when you notice the details, you're like, oh, look at that. That's cool.
It's what was the talk at Svelte Summit about this? Whimsy and I don't remember it. Yeah, exactly. He talks about this. It's a good talk.
Cool. All right.
Ooh, what's this? Breakthrough of the Year.
I'll briefly mention this because there's nothing to do. We are nominated. So SvelteKit is nominated for Breakthrough of the Year. Last year, Svelte itself was nominated for Breakthrough of the Year and won. This year, SvelteKit is a nominee alongside of Vite. So I don't fancy our chances, but you can check out what happens at the end. I think the voting is closed already, so there's nothing we can do here. Yeah. I did cast my vote. I was asked to vote, and I did cast my vote. But I mean, it'd be pretty funny for the thing that's built on top of Vite to win over Vite. So
there's people who create the thing, right, and there's people who use the thing. There's two options there. So you can write something brilliant and not do anything good with it, and then you can do something fantastic with something that already exists. So there's chance. There's still hope.
I'm gonna be happy if either of them wins.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Cool. That's
okay.
it.
And this is 1 year of Svelte Radio, but it's technically it's not. But in practice, it is, because the first episode doesn't count. That was just a 5-minute news show I did once. So
yeah, so I knew that we were coming up on some kind of anniversary, and I just checked. I was like, oh yeah, we started doing this in May of last year, and it's still been going strong. I really enjoy getting together, and people listen to us. I don't know why, but
yeah,
that's the most important part of all, right? People listen.
Yeah, I think it's fun. It's a lot of fun to get together and just talk about Svelte.
It is. I love keeping up to date with what's going on from you two, because I have no idea.
You're just putting your head down and working on the Ankh all the time.
often is the case.
Yep.
Yeah, I think also some things that are interesting are like we're podcasting from 3 different countries, and my time zone is weird, so we've had some screw ups in the past. So on was there a recording today?
Yeah.
And also, I think we all 3 of us organized our own meetups in our respective cities, and it's just I don't know. I just find it pretty poetic that when COVID happened, we all just pivoted to podcasting, and now we've done a year of it. Just it flew by.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to continue as well.
Sorry, absolutely. No, I find it interesting that obviously Shawn lives in one country, works in another country, and podcasts in another country. So I don't know how you fit all this stuff in, but
my body clock is just all kinds of screwed up. I actually, it's probably very unhealthy, and I'm trying to get back to the US ASAP, but the visa situation isn't cooperating. So we'll see.
Yeah. What is your day like? Like, do you wake up in the middle of the night? Or?
Yeah, I wake up at 6 p.m. I spend time with family until 9 or 10 p.m. and then I start work. And then I go until... well, actually, most of the time I start work at 12 now because I work on the West Coast hours. And then I go until 6 or 7 a.m. And that's my work day. I try to do... I started my own small little podcast, so at the end of the day, every day I take something from one of the podcasts I clipped, I listen to, and I clip a 5-minute clip of it, and that's my daily practice of just make something every day, and I try to blog as well, but that's about it. That's the daily routine is what I call the reverse 9 to 5. So instead of going from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., you can go to 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. And I mean, it's quiet. It's just it's hard to get food.
That's true.
So I remember when I was in Singapore, I used to love those hawker centers. Are those?
Yeah, they're all closed.
Okay.
You have to use a delivery service or something. I don't know. I mean, I just end up going to the grocery store and buying junk food, which is not super healthy. Yeah. I mean, it's not great as well. Just the circadian rhythm is all over the place. But you do what you must, and it is lower taxes. So I do earn an American income, but pay Singapore taxes and cost of living, which is much lower.
That's pretty nice.
Doesn't sound too bad. Okay, should we get into the unpopular opinions?
Sure.
I think you're up first.
All right. Because I wrote it first, because I have the most unpopular opinions. All my opinions are actually unpopular. That's an unpopular opinion. So
I'm still getting over your comments.
I want to double down on that actually. But my unpopular opinion is that vegan equivalents of recent times are actually better than the real thing in a lot of cases. So it's not for sake of necessarily wanting to eat vegan food or vegetarian food. It's just that whenever you go shopping now or you order from a takeaway place, I would say that now probably 30 to 40% of the food on offer is specifically vegan. People are really going hard on the vegan thing, which is great. I totally support that. I support eating less meat. I don't support eating no meat or dairy or anything like that, but I support eating less meat. And what I've found is that the vegan equivalents that you can get from takeaways and from supermarkets now are often considerably better than the real thing. Most notably would be the mock duck. So vegan mock duck is generally made from seitan, which is, I actually don't know what it is. It's some sort of thing.
It's gluten.
Material, I don't know.
100% gluten from wheat. Yeah, so you take
really?
wheat and then you wash it and you get out all of the protein, which is the gluten, and you just make that into like a ball. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Pretty better
cool.
than I thought. That's amazing. Yeah. Okay. Well, so the seitan is fantastic. Luckily, I'm not a celiac, right? Because it would be terrible if I was.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this mock duck is the texture when they make it into mock duck is absolutely perfect. It's the exact texture you get from duck. When you cook it, it gets those crispy bits that the duck skin gets as well. So it's just literally like eating duck. And then they put all the flavoring on, the sauce you'd have with the duck and the hoisin and stuff. And it's better than eating duck because duck is very fatty. There's all sorts of like pulling it off the bone and all that kind of stuff you have to do. And it's just, it's ultimately quite nice, but I get probably 110% of the enjoyment I get from eating duck that I do from eating seitan mock duck, right? So it's actually better. And then briefly, the more recent things, I've talked about Beyond Meat before. I do prefer Beyond Meat burgers to real burgers now. In the majority of cases, there's sometimes an exceptional burger, but the pork ribs and wings that a lot of takeaway places have started doing, especially in the UK now, are just... They're all the enjoyment of the real thing. All the flavors are there. The texture's there. You kind of almost forget that it isn't the meat. It's just, you're not eating an animal, and it's effectively cheaper, right? And the other thing is the ribs they make. Again, I don't know what they're made of. It might be jackfruit. It might be just mock duck. I'm not sure. So it might be seitan. I'm not sure. But all the textures are there. They've replicated the fatty bit. They've replicated the meaty bit. They've replicated the way that when you pull a pork rib apart, you've got all the sort of layers that come off it. They've replicated it exactly with these vegan proteins and glutens and things, and it's just fantastic. It's just why am I eating meat anymore? It doesn't make any sense, So that's my unpopular, maybe popular opinion. I don't really know. It depends on who you talk to.
Depends on the crowd.
Meat lovers will disagree, but
I haven't tried these, but I'm excited to try them.
Check them out.
And yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there's a chance that, by the end of the century, most of us will be eating mostly meat replacement stuff. And that's probably a big step for the environment. Excited about it. I just think it's going to take a while.
Yeah, I usually, like, over here, it's super expensive, unfortunately.
Really?
Like, yeah. So it's hard to like, justify the cost. But
I think it'll come down over time, though. I think it's new still.
Oh, for sure. So. For sure. It's probably like a scale thing, right?
Yeah.
You can scale up the production to make it cheaper. Have you guys
it's
heard
on par
about...
or cheaper here.
That's great then. Like,
yeah.
Why not eat that? Have you guys heard about Solar Foods?
No.
No, so it's a Finnish startup that are so as I understand it, they're extracting like the carbon from the air and using like bacteria, much like they do like so it's kind of like making beer, but instead of like adding stuff to it, they just take the carbon from the air and they produce protein from that, which is crazy in my head. So I'm excitedly waiting for them to come up with some kind of product that I can try.
I mean, that sounds amazing. That's literally two birds and one stone, as it were.
It almost sounds too good to be true, It
does, doesn't it?
Shawn.
Cool. My turn? Mine's very quick. I recently joined Right Sidebar Gang, is what I call it. So
disgusting.
For those who don't know, in VS Code or in like a normal IDE, usually you have your file explorer in the left sidebar, and I have become quite accustomed to popping it in and out with the Command B keyboard shortcut. But every time you pop it in and out, especially because I do a lot of talks or live streams or stuff like that, you want your screen to be as clear of distractions as possible, right? So the sidebar is a distraction if you're not navigating it all the time. So you just pop it out whenever you need to. But the problem is that every time you pop it out, because it's on the left sidebar, everything else has to relay out.
I never thought about that.
Yeah. And so Scott Hanselman from Microsoft has been saying this for a long time. And I don't know what made me do it, but I suddenly was like, okay, you've been preaching it this for like literally like, I don't know, 5 years. I will try this out and see the benefits. And it's neater because I do this probably 30 times a day. And so every time I pop stuff in and out, it doesn't relay out my whole code and Windows anymore. So I have joined Right Sidebar Gang. It takes a while to break the habit, though, of like, hey, I want to change files, and you go left, and you're like, oh, no.
No. I didn't think about that at all, but that's a really good reason to put it on the right side.
It is unpopular, but like it's also not super controversial because do what you want.
Yeah. All right. So my unpopular opinion. I usually don't have one, but mine is I like SublimeText 4. It might also not be an unpopular opinion. It's a new version of SublimeText. Recently came out. It's it's very fast. That's it. You don't have to wait for stuff to happen like you do with VS Code sometimes. You open a new VS Code window and you have to wait for 5 seconds or whatever. So that's nice.
Interesting.
But
there's this spectrum between an editor and an IDE, right? And so Sublime is much more on the side of
text editor.
Yeah,
definitely.
You can use Vim mode. Is there like a Vim mode or?
I don't know Vim. Okay. I wish I did though.
Vim is awesome.
I always wanted to be one of the cool kids.
Yeah, Vim is very cool actually, but it's a bit cryptic, obviously. Exit is escape : Q. Done. That's all there is to it. There's nothing complex about it.
What if it was just
going to ruin
escape?
Everyone's jokes? Escape, which puts you in command mode : Command Q. Quit. Easy.
Yeah, that's too complicated for me.
Okay, for the people who use VS Code who are also former Vim users, I'm going to drop this tip from Jared Palmer inside of the show notes as well. It's a way to expand the selection. So if you're in an element and you want to get the wrapping element, but it's all the way down, the close tag is all the way down below. So in Vim, it's easy to just expand out the selection and just increasingly just capture more and more elements around it. But typically in a visual editor, you would just like scroll up and down and drag and try to find like, is this the right div? I don't know. So there's a keyboard shortcut to do that. So check it out if you're in VS Code.
Yeah, that should be a thing.
I mean, there's so many
use.
cool
Why don't
things
I use that?
I don't know.
Completely missed that.
It probably exists in Sublime. You just have to find it.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many cool tricks. Like the one I use so often is the one where you hold Control Shift, I think, and down, and you get multiple cursors, right? So you get you can select a line. I use it all the time. It's just all that stuff with cursors is fantastic.
Yeah, Command D for VS Code. Yeah.
Same with the duplicate line, up and down.
Yeah,
like you're on a line and you just go up and down to copy them. That's also nice. All right, picks. We're already at the end. Oh,
yeah, Antony's first.
Yeah, let me just remind myself what my pick is now. So my pick is another sort of eco thing. GetHomeThings.com. So this is obviously a UK only product, but essentially, when you buy like a detergent for cleaning your house with, or you buy those spray bottles that you clean surfaces with, you're buying a bottle of water effectively, and it's got sort of a disinfectant mixed in with it. Someone's shipping that water in a big van, thousands of bottles of it. Someone's shipping those crates in the van in a ship somewhere, and it's all this water being shipped around the world. And more recently, people have found that you can just essentially get a tablet, the whole disinfectant part compressed into a tiny tablet, put in a packet, and then all you need is an empty spray bottle and a pre-existing plastic bottle, so there's no plastic waste, and your own water from the tap, right? If you're lucky enough to have running water in your country, it means that effectively then you've got this same exact thing without all that shipping, and you can ship millions and millions and millions at once. It's just a fantastic idea. So we bought a bunch off Facebook. Ashamed to say we saw an advert on Facebook. Sometimes you do, but we bought a bunch off this ad, and it's fantastic. It's equally as good as stuff we already had, but there's no shipping at all. The price is higher than it normally would be because obviously it's a new company, it's a small company. But the more people who get involved with this and buy this, then the better that price will become. And it's lasting forever because you get like a box of 16 tablets or something. They give you a glass spray bottle, so you have to start, trying to find plastic bottles to spray it from. It's great, it's fantastic. So check it out if you've got an equivalent in your country. Just I don't know what you call it or what you'd search for, but essentially a tablet that you dissolve in a bottle. Clean Cult. There we go. So it looks like there's a few already.
I went Googling while you were talking about this. I also regret to inform you that you've picked this before.
Oh, have I?
Oh,
Well, there you go.
I think you have.
It's worth doubling down
It's
on,
a
right?
double
It's
pick.
that good.
It's a double pick.
Yeah.
It's
If
that
it's
good.
on your mind, it's a good pick.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
But no,
It's hard
so
to keep track
I
of
looked
the
for
picks.
a US equivalent, and this one I don't think it's a tablet, but it's nice and refillable, and it's got a very nice website.
Whatever
I'm
we're
just a
not,
sucker for a
whenever
good
we're not
website.
shipping the water, that's the important part, I think.
Blue Land. Yeah, Blue Land. Okay, I'll pitch
Blue Land.
Blue Land. I don't know. I'm sure you can Google the equivalent idea if you want to do that.
I mean, this feels so obvious when you hear it, right?
Yeah.
Like the idea. It's like it feels very obvious. It's almost weird that it hasn't been done before.
Yeah,
Guess it's
it
obvious
is,
in
isn't it?
hindsight.
People get very addicted to selling you water.
Oh,
It's very low margin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
It's very true. I mean, it's also, it's far more, as a consumer, if you saw the two things on a shelf, you'd buy the water one because it looks like you're getting more, right?
Right.
yeah, possibly. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, moving on. I'm gonna pick Svelte form libraries. So I just noticed that there are a lot of community form solutions. So I tweeted out one day of just some collection of ideas. I know, Kev, you have like 2 Svelte form solutions or something.
They're pretty dead at the moment. So
There were some talks on that we did at the recent Svelte Summit. SilentWorks, Andrew from Jamaica, also did a Svelte forms lib library and produced an Egghead.io tutorial series on them. So check it out. Code Chips, I think his real name is Ilya Mikhailov, created a like an ebook on Svelte forms, and that seems to be very, very nicely done, actually, because it's hard to do forms right,
Yep.
Pierre B, I think he's on Twitter and GitHub is Pierre B. Pierre Bover has his own forms library, and I think there are just a bunch of them. I don't know. It's good to know these things at hand, because the temptation is always to say, I don't need it, and then you start slowly adding requirements, and then you're like rebuilding your store and the validation, and you're like, okay, like at some point you're just building your own library.
Yeah. Happened too many times to me.
It happens to me too, and I was just like, okay, I am an idiot, and I should just use someone else's library.
It's that thing though that like you start with just this simple thing, and then you, like you said,
I don't need a library.
Exactly, and then you add, and it's so simple to do the very basic stuff in Svelte
Yeah.
that you feel like you're almost done, but then you add just adding validation is pretty. That's a large extra step from just doing Svelte. I'm sorry, bind value, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'll just link the tweet in, get people to check it out, because there are a lot of solutions out there, and forms. That's how we get data to the internet.
Yeah.
So
All right.
it's boring,
should I,
but it's important.
So I have to
Should I go
unmute
for-
myself to laugh.
Should I go for my pick then?
Yep.
I'm gonna pick the Swedish summer. So if you ever decide you want to go to Sweden, I would highly recommend going in the summer or the middle of the winter if you like snow, I guess. And I'm specifically gonna pick the combination of gelato and the Swedish summer. And there's this place in Stockholm called Snö, which is Swedish for snow, which is a super nice gelateria that has won several awards for being like a really nice ice cream place. So yeah, that's my pick. It's very local, but if you're around, just you should visit.
I like it.
I'm jealous. If you can travel, please.
Yeah.
And, send us your pictures.
Yeah.
At Salt Society with your travel pictures. So I'm stuck at home, so I can't do anything.
Yeah. I mean, especially with your work schedule, sounds like if you travel, it'll be a night anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh well. Well, that's it for our anniversary episode.
Thank you, everyone,
All right.
for making it a year.
Yeah, we have we have a bunch of guests. Kev, you've been really doing a great job of booking these. people.
Yeah. So upcoming guests, we have. Let me see here. Yeah. So next episode, we're having Nick Reese on, and that's the Elder.js creator that we talked about before. And then we're going to have Brittany Postma on the week after that, teaching web dev and all sorts of fun stuff that she does. And then the week after that, we're going to have Lee Hao back, and I think we're going to talk a lot about his YouTube channel that he's been very diligently uploading content to, which is also a great channel. And somewhere in between here, we'll also have Scott on, Scott Tolinsky from Level Up Tuds, to talk about his both his new course on SvelteKit, as well as just his conversion or proof of concept thing. And then lastly, we also have an episode on Routify, where we have Jake and Ghost on. She doesn't want to tell us her name, so Ghost is the name.
Fair enough.
But yeah. Yep. That's it. So stay tuned, and let's see you all next episode.
See ya.
See you next
Bye.
episode. Bye.